is your name?
My name is Shuan Winnicky.
Where do you live and why do you live there?
I'm currently living in Stillwater, Oklahoma. The reason we're relocated here because I'm doing my PhD in OSU.
What is your degree in?
Working on molecular immunology.
Okay. And where are you originally from?
I'm from China originally.
Where did you grow up?
Growing up in China, Xi'an, the northwest of China.
So what brought you to America?
I'll say God, but in fact, it's God. But I'm not gonna say actually, but earthly, I did my master in South Dakota State University, so I came over for education.
So after being here for a few years from China, your English seems pretty advanced compared to what a normal foreigner's might. Why is that?
Well, it started with I watch a lot of American TV shows and movies. One of my favorite is Friends. And then after 2 years or 3 years since I've been in the States, I married to my husband, who happened to be American. So I speak English on a daily basis with him, and so I have a lot of practice, and I'm pretty good.
So you still have plenty of Chinese friends here that you work with and that you spend plenty of your time with, correct?
Right.
Do you regularly speak Chinese or American when you're with your Chinese friends?
Funny you should ask. So our lab currently have like almost 8 person who are Chinese and only 1 American student in our lab, and our advisor happened to be a Chinese too. So it's so weird to speak English with each other when we're just all Chinese people around. So we just by default we speak in Chinese, and this actually caused a problem previously because my advisor overheard some other student complain about the situation, and he actually sent out email in the lab saying in the professional place you have to speak English, and that only lasts for less than a week because we tried but it doesn't work that way. So I think eventually he gave up too. So now we just speak Chinese all over the place, and he doesn't have control over that anymore.
Is there any situation in your daily life other than when you're like having meetings with your lab mates or whatever and you may have to speak English, but outside in your free time with your Chinese friends that you would speak English?
Well, unless we're like out shopping and we interact with the store person or clerk with English. Otherwise, we're to speak Chinese.
Does your husband speak any Chinese?
He speaks hello in Chinese, and I love you. I taught him how to say Jesus in Chinese, and I don't know if he still remember. Yeah, that's about it.
So, with having friends that you speak Chinese with and your home life, you speak English with your husband, is there any conflict when the two lifestyles meet?
Well, not quite often, but there was a time I still remember the first year when we got married. I think I was sleeping in Chinese to him, and he doesn't understand what I was saying. And when I get up, no, I think I speak Chinese to him first, and then he asked me, what you're saying? And I said, repeat it in Chinese again, and he's like, I don't get it, you're speaking Chinese. And then I told him in English while I was sleeping, and when I get up, he was like, so, how's Judy in school? I was like, what? And then it turns out I was speaking while I was asleep. not the whole time, for those two sentences, and he got confused, and we got a good laugh out of it. Outside of that, it's not much of conflicts.
How about the situation in which you are around both your Chinese friends and your husband at the same time?
Well, I speak English to my husband and try to make him understand that he won't feel overlooked. And then I speak Chinese to my friends, and I think we get it controlled.
At any point in your relationship, did your husband feel maybe left out while you were speaking Chinese the majority of the time when around your friends as well?
Well, I don't recall if he complained about that or not, but I'm sure there was time, and maybe he just didn't tell me.
Do you find it difficult to go from speaking Chinese to English at any time, whether you are translating anything back and forth with your husband or other friends or family?
Yeah, to start with, when I first got into the States, I still need to practice my oral, so I found it sometimes it's hard to pronounce it correctly, and also sometimes it's hard to express myself correctly. But I get that over with. And then in terms of translation, there are words that there's not like counterparts between Chinese and English, so I have to find a way to translate back and forth. But I'm okay with it.
Does it have any effect on your schooling with or everyday life when you come across other foreign students from different countries and different language backgrounds when they try to speak English compared to when you're trying to hear them speak English?
Oh yeah. So we used to have a postdoc in our lab, and she's from England. She's from Indian, and she's very, very nice girl. But till the first month that I ever joined the lab, I couldn't understand her at all. I mean, there was once she just tried to tell me something in a drawer, and I couldn't figure it out. I don't remember if she grabbed someone to translate for me or she just opened the drawer. I was like, oh, drawer. And then she said, yeah, blah, blah, and I don't understand her. But after a month or so, after I adapt or get used to her accent, I can just understand her perfectly.
When you first came to America, was it difficult, or how long did it take you once you got to America to really be confident in your English?
Wow, that's a very good question. I think I was always somehow confident about my English, even though I would just first get into the States. Just because like the character of most of the Americans, they always compliment you in front of you. So I kind of get all of myself a little and thinking my English must be pretty good since they all compliment me. And then I think it's a year later where like one of my advisor and one of the grad students are together talking about something, and all of a sudden, well, we're talking about this like oral English wise, and all of a sudden that grad student just told me like, no offense to you, but your English is not as good as you thought. I was like, that's a bummer. So I'll say shortly after, well, I mean a year after my husband and I were dating, I feel more confident to speak or whatever, just because I get more used to lingos or whatnot in English, and also like I think half a year ago I hurt myself over the video that I taped, record for myself, and I actually didn't recognize of any accent at all. That was a surprise to me, and I didn't realize of it. I always thought I speak with accent all the time. So I'll say after 3-4 years since I'm in States, and I interact with my husband all the time and more confident now or since.
So when you are translating some things from Chinese to English for your husband, is there any instance where, let's say you're trying to get across something humorous, when you translate it, he may not find it funny at all? Like maybe there's a different type of comedy or a different type of humor that stems from whether it just be the culture of China or within the different language.
That only happens like every time. Because sometimes I told him something fun between my friends or whatever, and something a joke in Chinese, and I try to translate to him, and sometimes even explain to him why it's that funny, and he just have a poker face and like whatever. So yeah.
You became a Christian after you came to the U.S.?
Yeah. Shortly after a year.
So would you say that your Christian beliefs, is that something that maybe only in English, or do you read like scriptures from both languages, or is there some things that you may not be able to know what it means in one of the other languages?
Oh yeah, and, I mean, I only know about Christianity ever since I'm in the States, and I spent a lot of time pursuing that too. So to start with, for like first 3-4 years, I only know Christianity in English, and I don't understand Bible in Chinese even. There was time I was invited to a Bible study by a Chinese professor, and his wife handed me a Chinese Bible. I was like, ooh, Chinese Bible, I don't understand that. And somehow she found it funny because, and so I pulled out my phone and just read my English Bible, new internet version. And she's like, oh, that's funny because I don't understand English Bible. But ever since I joined this lab for my PhD, my office mate, she's a Chinese too, and she's also a Christian. We talk about Christianity quite often, so I kind of caught up with certain Chinese Christianity terms. I don't think I fully understand it right now, but I'm getting better in Chinese now.
Okay. So when you plan on having children in the future, how do you want to raise them in form of the languages and your cultural background compared to your husband as well, being from America?
Well, we talk about that and a lot, and we both agree our kids have to have both our culture background or life background. So I think I can teach them Chinese if needed, and then I'm sure my husband will teach them English, and if needed, we can send our kids to Chinese school. Well, like school for learning Chinese, so they can grow up bilingual. And well, I'll definitely teach them the history of China, so they can know their heritage.
So you would say that your transition from, first of all, do you ever plan on maybe living or going back to China to live, either once you move there for the rest of your life, or just for a period of time at all, to be closer to friends or family? Is that ever in your plans, or maybe an idea to throw around?
Yeah, we talk about that, and it depends on God if He ever wants us to go back to China and live for a short amount of time, for a couple of years or whatnot, then we'll be more than happy to, and we can do what we need from His eyes to help people or bring gossip to people or bring people to God, especially my family. In terms of living in China forever, I really don't know. For one, I don't think my husband can take it. for another. I don't care so much for the education in China. So for our kids, I rather them to have like American background of education, especially college or higher.
Even though many people consider the education system in China to be inferior compared to China and India.
Right.
Or,
Oh yeah, it's very harsh. Like what I say, the basic education is from elementary till up to high school. It's very harsh. It's very competitive, and you have to be at your best. And especially when you're in like senior in high school, you're facing the exam to go to college. You have to just put over your like 10 hours of study day in and day out. It's very, very harsh. And to me, it's necessary at some point, but it's not that important. And on top of that, I'm okay for our kids to do their basic education in China because they actually have a very steady foundation. But for college or especially higher education, grad school, I would definitely ask them to not do it in China.
so, with all things being said, um, how long have you been in America now?
Well, this is my 5th year, and I think by the end of this year will be my 6 years.
So, with being in America now for 5 years or so, it hasn't been too difficult for you to make the transition from what many people would consider two completely different cultures. And why? What would you contribute that to the most?
Well, to start with, I don't think it's hard for me at all because the most factor to help this transition is people in church and people who cares about me. Back to Brookings, South Dakota. I think the first couple of times that the very first time I visit in Brookings is a church that after we do every Friday fellowship in that church, and I met a lot of good people, good friends, and Craig and Colleen, and just almost became my family shortly after. So they're all helping me, and whenever I have stuff to deal with, they're always there for me, and they happen to be all Americans. So I think in a way I fit in perfectly as the way it is, and my personality too. So I actually don't have the common problem for international students, hard to fit in the society or whatnot. Well, I mean, eventually I'm married to my husband, helps a little. But it actually, I don't have a lot of Chinese friends back to Brookings because, well, I do, but not a lot. And I never speak Chinese in our lab because I'm the only grad student. And, well, in the whole department, I'm the only Chinese students. It's only here for like 2 years I speak Chinese quite often, but before that, I just totally Americanized in a way.
So even though it was easy for you to make the transition, is that common, or is it quite popular for you and your peers to make that transition?
It's actually not. I'm just very blessed in a way, and I've heard stories about how Chinese people try to fit in, and their English is not as good, so you can't communicate to make friends or get familiar with people. So the way he did was to hang out with a whole bunch of Korean students and try to fit in. I don't know why, because to me it's awkward just to imagine it. They're gonna speak English the whole time, or those Koreans gonna speak Korean the whole time, and he must feel left out in a way. And I heard that he refused to interact with Chinese people just because he wanted to fit in the States. And the way he does it was to interact with Koreans, but whatever. It's not common for my case. Again, I have to say I'm very blessed, and for most of Chinese people I know or international people I know, they always have their own group, which are most likely their own people, and they just make a living out of that. So. Let me know.
Okay, whenever.
How many more?
2 more. Or 1 more. Okay.
I'm typing something.
Oh. Can you put your hair back at all? So I can see like the side of your face?
Ah!
You hit your head?